From time to time, we want to bring you something you probably won't find on other shows. Veteran political reporters and some of their favorite spots letting their guard down and telling us what they really think. Today's Reporter's Notebook takes us to one of the city's most well-known underground locations with the Chicago Tribune's Rick Pearson. I need analysis on the GOP primary. I knew where to find you during the day, Rick.
Not during the day. Come on. This is a rare exception.
On a frigid morning downtown, we met the Chicago Tribune's political reporter, Rick Pearson, at the world-famous Billy Goat.
Starbucks is ready!
Over cheeseburgers, Pearson broke down the GOP race for governor. Ted Dabrowski, it seems, is the establishment's pick. How did that come to be?
Well, you use the term establishment. And what is the GOP establishment? What really is the Republican establishment these days? I mean, we have a Republican Party that's really just factions, various factions.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, we'll introduce Darren Bailey.
You had some of the folks that supported Darren Bailey 4 years ago and saw him go nowhere against Pritzker, who decided he can't come back.
Well, I am not from the political system. I know the system.
And Dabrowski has been a conservative activist on many fronts, been to a number of organizations on his own with his wire points advocacy. I don't think he's a known quantity to the vast number of Illinoisans, let alone Republicans.
Darren Bailey, he is back, ran last time, lost badly in the general election. He is running with Aaron Del Mar. He's presenting himself as being different this time. Do you see a different Darren Bailey?
I think coming out of the blocks after certainly the serious family tragedy that he had, I did see kind of a more chastened kind of candidate. But, you know, and I'm not going to call Chicago a hellhole or, you know, Chicagoans love their city, that kind of thing. But I think beyond that, I haven't seen much evidence that Darren Bailey 2.0 is any different than the original beta version. It's still the same rhetoric. He's a known quantity, which of course I think is what makes him the front runner. He doesn't have the financial resources, which, you know, could or may go to Dabrowski, because we haven't really seen full evidence of that yet. If Dick Uihlein, the ultra-conservative mega donor, is he going to go all in on Ted Dabrowski? I don't know.
I'm doing this because my heart and my soul dragged me into doing it.
Rick Heidner could self-finance and seems to be gearing up to do something. What's his path to victory?
I'd like to know what the something is. You know, he does have the resources, put $1 million of his own money in. The first digital ad that he had, and it right out of the blocks, it's a graphic with Rick Heidner, Trump Republican for governor. Is that a winning strategy in this state? Maybe for the primary.
We can reform our entire criminal justice system in this state. This is all.
Should we consider James Mindrick relevant?
You know, I'm not so sure that, other than the social media videos that he does, that he represents much of a presence. He's has some very controversial views as a constitutional sheriff, which by their doctrine is that the sheriff has more power than any public official in their jurisdiction.
What's at stake for Governor Pritzker? Does he need to vanquish his Republican opponent by double-digit points like last time as he thinks about 2028?
You'd certainly want to have a number indicating popularity in your home state as someone who wants to look at the national stage.
Which one of the Republican candidates do you think could land the most punches, do the most damage to Pritzker?
I'm not sure at this stage, which also is a reflection of this Republican campaign. I'm not sure that I've seen anything that establishes somebody as the heavyweight to deliver the punches.
Tonight's tip of the hat goes to the Chicago Sun-Times national political reporter Tina Sondeles, who moderated a debate last night among the top Democratic candidates for U.S. Senate. She threw the candidates off with this question.
Democrats spend a lot of time talking about all the ways that they will fight Donald Trump, but is there a current or proposed policy of the president that you do support?
I do support their one little thing they were trying to do as far as wellness.
I think that we have to be concerned about our manufacturing workers.
There's nothing that I'm going to say today that I can think of that I agree with Donald Trump on.
Democratic candidates for U.S. Senate will go head-to-head again at least 2 more times. That includes next month right here at WGN. We hope you'll join us Thursday, February 19th at 7 p.m. That is The Point. I'm Taman Bradley. Micah and Ray are back with more news at 9 from all of us here at WGN. Good night.